Episode 1 of Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore Series. So, growing up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, USA, I wasn't into music at first. My parents had their thing, mom with pop, my dad with country, but I didn't really click with music except for like Lady Gaga or Dolly Parton, these kind of femme icon pop stars. I preferred listening to silence or an open window. You know, kind of ambient background noise type of thing. Everything changed in about 2005 when my uncles showed me their record collection, or really a CD collection. Classic metal and grunge, Metallica, Slayer, Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, Soundgarden, Korn. That raw 90s energy hit different. And by 2008, I was playing guitar. My friends at school got me into hip-hop too, though. 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Tech Nine, these hip-hop classics, really of the 2000s. But the real game changer was discovering The Prodigy through World of Warcraft PvP videos. Oh yeah, I was a nerd at the 2000s. I mean, still am. I found this random trance DJ mix on a speedrun video and played it so much my MP3 player labeled it my favorite song. That was my first taste of electronic production, hearing how someone could completely transform songs into something new through remixing and also DJ mixes. And that moment in my life planted the seed for everything that came after as a musician. Did you ever obsess over a random playlist you found online as a kid? Tell me about it. New episode every day until the album drops. Episode 2 of Cash Crash Music DJ Lore Series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In the 8th grade, I reconnected with someone who would change my musical direction completely. Her name was Gemini, and we'd met years earlier but hadn't stayed in touch. She was the leader of the local emo scene, and when I started hanging out with that crowd, my world expanded instantly. She introduced me to bands that became massive influences. The classic Fall Out Boy, Green Day, Paramore, Panic at the Disco, but the most important introduction was to a post-hardcore band from California called From First to Last, and their singer Sonny Moore's solo project, by the same name, Sonny Moore. And then she showed me Skrillex, his early remixes, and the My Name is Skrillex EP. I remember the first time I heard it, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The way the sound textures moved over the drums was completely different from other dance music. Instead of everything following the percussion, like trance or house music, Skrillex's sounds flowed like water over the beat, creating this urgency that made you want to move, like you had to move, you needed to move. I was completely hooked. I had to understand how this music was made by any means necessary. Anyway, new episode of this story every day until the album drops. Episode 3 of the DJ Producer Lore Series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In 2008, I was completely obsessed with dubstep, and I had just barely started learning guitar. I listened to everything on UKF's channel, searching for another hit of whatever Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites was made of, and I taught myself the main melody on guitar. I started tuning into BBC Radio 1 and lurking on SoundCloud constantly. Around early 2010, when Skrillex dropped Bangarang around New Year's Eve, or maybe on New Year's Eve, I don't remember. Anyway, I decided to try DJing myself in 2010. I downloaded Virtual DJ and started experimenting with my friend. We had no clue what we were doing, mostly just cranking up tempos and adding terrible effects, essentially making bad nightcore remixes. When we tried to mash up songs, we struggled so hard. Neither of us could beat match, and even with the sync button, we didn't understand music theory enough to make proper mixes, but we kept at it anyway. We were having so much fun mashing up like crappy pop songs and stuff. At the same time, I was diving deep into tutorial content, spending entire evenings after school on YouTube learning about production techniques. Information overload became my way of dealing with everything else going on in my life. I thought that if I overloaded on nonfiction information that I could push out the negative emotions in the background of my head, you know what I mean? This obsessive learning phase taught me something crucial, that making electronic music wasn't just about the software. You needed to understand how the sounds work together and how energy builds and releases, and that foundation would serve me for years to come. New episodes of this story every day until the album drops. Follow for more. Episode 4 of the Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. I wanted to level up from software, so I researched DJ controllers, found one I could afford, and convinced my mom to let me get it if my grades improved. This was around maybe 2011, 2012-ish, maybe still 2010, I don't know. My grades improved and I could get the controller, and now I could at least practice properly in my room. And at the same time, I was experimenting with my first DAW, Magic's Music Maker. That's gonna make some people laugh. It was basically beginner software, like Fisher-Price's first DAW. But I was learning. Then I discovered something weird on the internet that became my music education, the My Little Pony music community. I know how that sounds, but hear me out. This was a massive network of musicians creating remixes and original works inspired by the show. We're talking people of all ages discussing advanced production techniques in forums, IRC channels, and Skype servers. Back when Skype was a thing. This was before Microsoft acquired it, so it was still cool back then. I found myself learning compression, EQ, and arrangement from producers with decades of experience from all over the world, too. Australia, Europe. They told me Magix was holding me back and I should try Ableton Live, Logic, or FL Studio instead. So I was a PC user, so I tried out FL Studio for about the next 2 years. I was posting music as DJ Triple B, and while my tracks were super rough, I was getting real feedback from people who knew their shit. Sometimes the best education comes from the most unexpected places. This community taught me that good music production transcends any particular scene or genre. Even cartoon ponies can make good music. Seriously, go back and listen to some of those guys. They were really good. If anybody remembers me from the pony days, DJ Triple B, hit me up. I was so cringe back then. Anyway, new episode of this story every day until the album drops. Like and subscribe, follow, etc. Episode 5 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In April 2012, I played my first live show at a local venue called the Bonanza in Cheyenne, Wyoming, that is. I wish I had remembered to hit record. That set is lost forever. My mom had gifted me this tiny 13-inch netbook with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I somehow managed to install my DJ software despite it not having a disk drive. I needed a disk for my drivers for my controller at the time. The other artist on the bill was an older kid from school who'd been producing and DJing much longer than me, several years. I was grateful he gave me the opportunity. I still have the flyer. They got my name wrong, but it's okay. My mom and my grandma were supposed to come watch, but they just dropped me off and left. They didn't want to hang out with a bunch of teenagers. That's fine. All my friends showed up and the dance floor was packed. We had like maybe 100 or so people, which honestly really filled up that really small venue. All moving to the music I was playing. I stuck to crowd pleasers that night. My favorite was a remix of the Skyrim theme song. My own productions weren't professional enough yet to play in good faith, so I kept those to myself. But watching that room full of people respond to the music I was selecting and mixing, that feeling was everything. That night taught me the difference between making music in your bedroom and performing for people. The energy exchange is completely different when you're reading a crowd in real time. It's totally not even the same as a live stream. Just magic. New episode of this story every day until the album drops. Like, follow, subscribe, etc. Episode 6 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. As spring turned to summer in 2012, I was dealing with some major personal changes that had been building up for years. I'd never really fit in with traditional expectations, and I was finally understanding why. That summer, while spending some time with online communities, particularly the brony music scene, I realized I was transgender. I also figured out I was pansexual. These weren't sudden realizations, but finally having language for feelings I'd carried my whole life. I decided to come out to close friends first, someone I trusted who could help me navigate what came next. She didn't understand initially, but after some conversation, she got it and agreed to help keep it private while I figured out how to tell others. I knew this was going to be really difficult in rural Wyoming. This realization completely changed my perspective on basically everything in my life, including my music. All those pent-up emotions I'd been carrying had to go somewhere. Already had been going somewhere really, and music became my outlet more than ever. The creative process became deeply tied to processing these huge life changes for me. Looking back, this period was when I really started understanding what it meant to put genuine emotion into art instead of just technical skill. Yeah, kind of got heavy there. Sorry. Trans pride. Uh, New episode every day until the album drops.
Anxiety in our digital society. Everywhere I turn, there are screens watching. I can feel the mockery landing upon me. Oh, it's so uncomfortable being seen.
Episode 7 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In May 2012, I decided to come out to my mom and sister as transgender. My sister's reaction was perfect. She basically said, "Oh, so you're the same person, but just a girl now? Cool," and went back to her phone. That was it. My sister's the best. I love you, sis. My mom's reaction was more complicated. It took her time to process, and the next several months were challenging as we both figured out how to navigate this new reality. There was a lot of conflict about how I could express myself, especially in public. During this unstable period, making music became my refuge even more than it already was. I know I've already said that like 3 times in this series, but you know what I mean. Artists make art when they have emotion. Anyway, I kept DJing, sometimes streaming online, and kept producing, but the chaos at home made it hard to focus on anything concrete. All that emotional turbulence had to go somewhere, though, and it started shaping the music I was making. Looking back, this was when my sound started developing real emotional depth instead of just technical experimentation. Sometimes the most difficult periods in your life push your art in directions you never would have explored otherwise. That tension between personal struggle and creative growth would define the next phase of my musical journey. Like and subscribe, stick around if you want to hear more. New episode every day until the album drops. Episode 8 of the At Cash Crash DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. When school started in fall 2012, I had started dressing more androgynously while I figured out how much I was ready to share publicly about my gender identity. I was wearing women's clothing, but keeping things low-key with v-necks, bell-bottoms, and Converse shoes from the women's section. And eventually, I decided to come out to my friend group at school. The reactions were mixed. Some friends were supportive-ish, others were confused, and a few just couldn't handle it. I lost some friendships that had lasted years. Eventually, I lost all of the friendships that had lasted years, including my closest friend who I'd done everything with, including those early DJ experiments from the previous video. You know, how I got into DJing. That rejection hit really hard. Going from spending every day with someone, or nearly every day, to complete silence was brutal. He was my best friend, but it also taught me something important about authenticity. Sometimes people will accept you for who you really are, and other people won't. And you can't make music trying to please the people who won't accept you. I started making friends with younger students and got involved with the Gay Straight Alliance. This helped me get through how difficult school became after losing my core friend group. Through all this chaos, I kept making music. It became my constant when everything else was falling apart. I can always rely on my DAW to open and make noises. I love my little bleep bloops. They get me through my life. Stay tuned for this story. New episode every day until the album drops. Like and subscribe, etc. Episode 9 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In October 2012, during one of the worst fights with my mom about my transition, she kicked me out to go live with my father in Wheatland, a tiny town an hour north with 3,000 people and 20,000 cows. I had to pack everything and drive up there with nowhere else to go. Halfway through the drive, near a town called Chugwater, I fell asleep at the wheel. I woke up as my car hit a reflector pole, jerked the wheel, and rolled 6 times across the median to the other side of the highway. I hit my head. There was a loud crack. I clacked my teeth together, and they cracked, and I needed some dental repair later. But I lived. The car was not okay. Everything I owned was scattered across the road. My DJ gear, computer, clothes, phone, microphones, cables, broken glass, twisted metal, chunks of engine. I crawled out of the driver's side window and sat on the concrete barrier, bleeding from my head wound, a large matted wad of hair and blood hanging off of my head. When my dad came running out of the darkness shouting my name, I'd never seen him that scared. He helped me salvage what we could from the wreckage before the tow truck took what was left of my car. That accident destroyed everything I had, but it also marked the beginning of a completely different chapter in my life. And sometimes destruction creates space for something better to grow. Stay tuned for this story. New episode every day until the album drops. This is the license plate for my car. You see where the reflector pole hit? You see how my tag expires in 2013? Episode 10 of Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. After the car accident, I moved in with my dad in rural Wyoming, even more rural than Cheyenne, for about a year. The biggest adjustment was being stuck 15 miles outside of a tiny town with terrible internet. Steam wouldn't even work properly. You needed to be online even for offline games, which was impossible with our connection. So I basically quit gaming cold turkey, including World of Warcraft, which had been like digital crack to me since I was like 12 years old. I tried the local high school for a few weeks, but it was a joke. I'm talking 4 years behind my previous school. As a junior, they had me studying Algebra 1 again when I'd already done geometry and trig. It was like educational time travel in the worst way. I dropped out after 3 weeks and aimed for my GED instead, because at least I could teach myself. Seriously, rural schools need better funding? Post haste. That's what's wrong with this country. You wonder why they vote red? That's why. I ended up working for my dad's contracting company. The isolation was rough, but suddenly I had all this time and mental energy with nowhere to go except music production. When you can't game, can't get a decent education, can't be friends with the fucking Republicans because I'm secretly trans and still pretending to be a boy at this time, can't do much of anything, you either go crazy or you create something. I chose creation. Anyway, follow me for more of this story. New episode every day until the album drops. I'm Cash Crash Music. Bye. Episode 11 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. Around this time, I was active on Tumblr promoting my music. That's where I met Devin, who found me through a post about my latest release. I was making wispy, acoustic guitar, Latin, progressive house, a sound I was really excited about. I had just released a 3/4 act EP on Bandcamp, trying to raise money to move away from rural Wyoming. The release got some decent engagement, and I was starting to connect with other producers online. I was releasing music under the alias Riptide on SoundCloud and Bandcamp as Pay What You Want albums. I participated in remix contests and was active in producer Discord servers, slowly building a network in the electronic music community. If you remember me as the producer Riptide and you're out there in the world, hit me up in the comments. I don't have any of my old music from that alias. So yeah, anyway. Unfortunately, that hard drive corrupted and I lost all those early releases. If anyone out there has copies of those old Riptide tracks, Making a Difference EP or Mispronouncing Your Girlfriend EP, I'd literally die for them. It's wild not having your own music. But those releases taught me a lot about promotion, building an audience, and the importance of backing up your work. I think I've mentioned that like 3 times or 2 times in the series. Like, it's seriously important. Back up your files. Holy shit. Anyway, follow me for more of this story. New episode every day until the album drops. Check out cashcrashmusic.com for merchandise. Episode 12 of Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. Devin and I ended up moving in together, and that's when things got complicated for my music career. They became increasingly critical of my productions and wanted me to spend less time working on music. Eventually, I was only allowed to work on Wednesday afternoons when they weren't home. Specifically Wednesday. I don't even remember why. They convinced me I had an Addiction to Music claimed they'd researched it and found peer-reviewed papers, refused to show me said papers. It sounds ridiculous now, but gaslighting works, and I started feeling guilty about how much I loved making music and how much I loved EDM. Under this pressure, my sound shifted toward more commercial pop and big room house. I was just desperate to try and get noticed quickly, thinking if I could just make it, the criticism would stop. From my spouse. Yeah, super healthy. I released tracks in genres like Melbourne bounce, progressive house, electro house, just main room house, whatever I thought would break through. The stress completely changed how I approach creating, and honestly, her voice is still in the back of my head, critiquing everything I write. Instead of following my instincts, I was second-guessing every creative decision, trying to make music that would satisfy someone who fundamentally didn't want me making music at all. And that period taught me that external validation can poison the creative process if you let it. Anyway, if you like this story, follow, like, subscribe. New episode every day until the album drops. Get merchandise at cashcrashmusic.com.
People vote against you, just close the polls, stuff the ballot box, and you're the one in control. Abusing power to suppress democratic opposition is industry standard in government positions. Corporate greed and politicians for sale, that's the American dream that's sold on Wall Street. And the fact is, unholy alliances like these have probably already undermined your community.
Episode 13 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. Things got worse after Devin and I got married. Why we got married is a complicated thing. The criticism of my music became constant, and I was basically forbidden from producing for weeks at a time. They'd leave me lists of chores to do during the day, and if anything wasn't perfect when they got home, I'd have to redo everything while they watched. Eventually, I just stopped doing the chores during the day and focused on survival instead. Then one morning, I woke up and my computer screen was completely smashed. It had been fine when I went to bed, hadn't been moved, and I was the only other person in the house. For months, I couldn't produce anything. No computer, no music, no creative outlet. I got really into playing guitar and bass again, acoustic instruments that couldn't break as easily. But toxic situations always come to an end eventually. By early 2017, things had completely fallen apart between us, and I finally had saved the money to leave. It's always about money, isn't it? Sometimes you have to lose everything to remember who you actually are. Anyway, if the story resonates with you, like, follow, subscribe, etc. Share with your friends. New episode every day until the album drops. Maybe get hype and get some merchandise at cashcrashmusic.com? Maybe? Episode 14 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. I packed everything I owned into my 1980 Ford pickup with that super reliable V6 and lived in the front seat of it all through of September 2017. This was actually the second time I'd been homeless, but that first time is a different story. Maybe it'll get its own video. Living in that truck, I used to sing and rap my songs to keep myself warm. Singing actually generates body heat and keeps your circulation going. It also kept my voice sharp for when I could record again. It was the only musical thing I could do in the vehicle since my guitars were in storage and I didn't have a computer. I didn't even have a smartphone, just a cheap flip phone. I literally had a track phone. That's not an advertisement. But that isolation really forced me to really develop my voice and memorize my lyrics in a way I never had before. In October, I finally got approved for an apartment. She moved the paperwork forward for me, even though it was kind of fudging the books. I really appreciate that lady. I had no furniture, just clothes and some books. That first night, I was broke as hell, but I ordered pizza and wings anyway to celebrate having my own safe space where I could be loud and love music as much as I wanted. I just needed a laptop and I'd be back in business. A few months later, I traded my broken desktop to someone for a used gaming laptop, so that he could fix it because it was a nicer computer, but I couldn't afford to fix it. And by March 2018, I was making music again. If this story resonates with your struggle, like, follow, subscribe. New episode every day until the album drops. Maybe get hype and get some merchandise at cashcrashmusic.com. Episode 15 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. The first song I made after getting that laptop was the instrumental for the song Lost. The lyrics are about everything Devin put me through, so it holds special meaning in my life timeline. After that, I started dating someone wonderful, and we were together until 2023, for 6 years. During this period, I was the most productive I'd ever been. Being genuinely happy gave me the creative energy I'd never experienced before. I wrote most of my first album during this time, the album you're about to hear, especially before 2020. I tried to release it that year as industry standard, but after harsh feedback on my production back then, and COVID shutting down all of the venues that I originally planned to do my tour at in northern Colorado and Wyoming and Montana, I delayed everything and kept working. I released some singles as Rachel G for over 7 years, but eventually knew I needed a fresh start, especially because the SEO of Rachel G was terrible. Moving to Sacramento in 2023 from Wyoming, I began planning my rebrand to Cash Crash Music. Sometimes you have to shed your old skin to become who you're meant to be. If this story has resonated with you, maybe like, follow, subscribe. New episode every day until the album drops. Maybe check out some merchandise at cashcrashmusic.com. Maybe. Episode 16 of the At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. Starting in February 2025, I launched Cash Crash Music by re-releasing my favorite Rachel G singles, Poetry Slam, State of Hypocrisy, and Lost, as remastered versions alongside the originals with completely new artwork, although everybody hated the artwork. Oops. I ramped up to weekly releases with new singles, Doom Generation, 1994, Exodus, and Nothing for Free. The goal was building momentum toward my debut album and illustrating my new production style where I combine my rock, rap, grunge, EDM style. The album that's coming out is called Screen Rituals, and it's coming out through my self-owned indie label Electro Grunge Records. There's a music video for the lead single, Performance Anxiety, plus new visualizers and lyric videos for the other tracks with new branding and new artwork that I hope everyone likes. The sound tackles digital anxiety, artistic struggle, and societal critique through my unique blend of electro house, glitch hop, moombahton, and punk and grunge rock. I play electric and bass guitar, sing, and rap on the album. The social media commentary and performance anxiety, political lyrics and unholy alliances, and brooding vulnerability and terrifying. Really, like, it all comes together to be this showcase of this, like, Res, Boys Noise, Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine kind of energy, I guess. I just hope people connect with it after I've literally been writing some of these songs since 2017, and they've been, like, bouncing between hard drives as computers die, and I move houses, and I survive homelessness. So, if this story resonates with you, new episode every day until the album drops. Maybe check out some merchandise at cashcrashmusic.com. Episode 17 of At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. In April 2025, I got accepted to Icon Collective's music business program in Los Angeles. I was so excited. If you don't know, Icon Collective is this semi-famous music school focused on the EDM industry specifically, offering music production and music business courses. I spent months getting my affairs in order, found a new place to live, and dropped serious money preparing for the move. And on May 29th, 2025, I'd been in my new place for 1 day, and I got the keys to my new LA apartment. My roommate found them. He had been, like, stashing them away somewhere. A few hours later, Icon Collective updated their website with an official notice of permanent closure due to financial issues. Poof. Just gone. My entire plan for the future evaporated in a single afternoon. But at least my new roommates were cool. They were all musicians. Sometimes the music industry teaches you about resilience in the most brutal ways possible. You make these big life changes, invest everything you have, and then external forces you can't control just change the game entirely. But I was already in LA with the lease, so fuck it. Time to figure out plan B. If this story resonates with you, there's a new episode every day until the album drops. Like, follow, subscribe. Maybe check out the merch at cashcrashmusic.com. Episode 18 of At Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. About a week after Icon Collective's closure, all the former students got an email about a joint meeting between Icon's director and people from Musicians Institute of Hollywood. Basically, MI was absorbing all of the Icon students and helping international students with their visas. The best part? MI is an actual university instead of a trade school, so we get degrees instead of certificates. So I get an Associates of Business. I'm gonna be eating cereal for every meal for the rest of my life. Anyway. Plus, people could apply finally for financial aid and scholarships that weren't available at Icon. So in the weirdest way, the school closing actually worked out better for some people involved. The rest of June was still really rough, though. Getting settled in LA after moving here is so brutal. My couch arrived in 3 boxes, but they only delivered 1, so I'm sleeping on this tiny square of foam. This little gray thing is supposed to be 3 times bigger. I still can't find work. The nightly gunshots mixed with the 4th of July fireworks and created this surreal soundtrack to my new life, and I just pretended it's the revolution we all need. I was broke as hell and could barely afford groceries, and I've been earning my LA stripes, and I can't wait to release this album. But you know, sometimes the universe closes one door just to kick open a better one for you. If this story resonates with you, like, follow, subscribe, share with your friends. There's a new episode every day until the album drops. Maybe check out some merch at cashcrashmusic.com while you wait. Episode 19 of Cash Crash Music DJ Producer Lore series. Hi, I'm Cash Crash Music. Well, it's today. It's mid-August 2025, and I'm finally ready to upload the album and videos for release. I'm terrified about the reception, whether it'll be met with silence, mockery, or hopefully something better. I've been putting off making this video series for way too long. I even procrastinated today. It felt vulnerable as hell sharing all of this. I even censored a bunch of stuff. But I wanted people to understand where I come from when they hear Cash Crash for the first time in this debut album, my professional debut with my first music video. If you've made it through all these episodes, thank you so much just for watching. Thank you so much. I wanted you to know the story behind the music when you hear it. Or I wanted you to know the story behind the music after you hear it. You know, it's content. You can watch it whenever you want. I don't care. I hope this series shows that making art isn't just about talent or luck. It's about surviving everything life throws at you and still choosing to create something. Art is about hard work. Every setback, every toxic relationship, every financial disaster, every closed door, every time you're homeless, because I've been homeless 3 fucking times, it feeds the music. Every time I write a note, you're hearing my suffering turn into something beautiful. So please, go stream the album. Go buy it on Beatport, help out my algorithm. Go buy some merchandise on cashcrashmusic.com. But more than anything, I hope that Screen Rituals connects with you. Because we're all doing screen rituals every day in our own little ways. Just like I am right now with this camera, and you are right now watching this. Thanks for taking this journey with me. Let's see what happens next.